can't tell what's wrong or right. Should I go without saying goodbye? All I know is I need to be somewhere else to set me free. I don't know what to do now. Need to figure it out, but I don't know how. I hope the wind will carry me and take me away to where I should be. I don't know where I belong, but I keep on searching for my home. There's a hunger in my soul, makes me keep on trying, holding on. Take me all the way, all the way. Take me all the way, and I keep on searching for my home.
Good morning, good morning. Wednesday morning here in New Zealand. I'm in Wellington. It is grey and drizzly out here. Red make curtains on, so hopefully the house will start.
Oh, I wonder if there's a place where the
live stream is going on, and I've had a coffee, so that's great.
wide awake with an open mind, looking out from a mountain.
Anyway, I am here, and you are here too.
Need to figure it out,
let me know in the comments who you are and where you are. That would be great.
I hope the wind will
Today
carry
I'm going to be
me
talking about
and take me away to where I should
The
be.
theme for today is about what to take, where to go, gadgets, cameras, whatever it is.
There's a hunger in my soul,
Might have
makes
to
me keep on trying, holding on. Take me all
February this year, 2025, put out a community poll and posted that a couple of days ago saying, asking how far in advance we plan. Interestingly, I have a bunch of planning people who look at these community polls because most people said 6 months out, and then next time it was up 1 to 3 months out, which is what I'm doing for my Shanghai, UK, Portugal trip, which is coming up in September. But the February trip is my kind of long-term planning. The flights are booked in, but I am now starting to figure out, okay, what am I actually going to do? So I'll talk a little bit more about that. Because I took 2 very different approaches in my trips last August and in February this year. And this time I'm going to take a kind of like a hybrid approach between the two, because I actually really enjoyed my approach in my last trip, but I could do with probably a little bit more kind of like getting around. So I'm just trying to kind of knit those two together. So I'll talk a little bit about kind of itineraries as well, like how not to overstress yourself and over-plan and over-schedule yourself such that you just arrive back from your holiday, happy to have seen loads of stuff, but kind of regretting that you didn't spend long enough in some of the places that you're at. You only just kind of skimmed the surface and got a load of photos, but don't really remember the experience that well. Don't know if you've ever done that before when you've had holidays, but I certainly have. Anyway, so I've been also traveling a little bit locally over the last couple of weeks. About 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago today, I went to Christchurch, which is just in the South Island here in New Zealand. It's the largest city on the South Island. And I took the opportunity to take the Mr. 360 X4 with me. You have seen the video that I put up earlier this week on that. It's just like a 16-minute one-take walk through the city and along by the river. If you haven't seen that, check it out. See what you think about that. And then I took the Go 3S with me. Mr. 360 Go 3S. And I used that for vlogging for the first time. That video is edited, ready to go. It's coming out this weekend. So for those of you who have an Insta360 Go 3S or have a Go 3 and you've seen my videos with the Go 3, or you're interested in getting one or the other and you just kind of trying to figure out which one works for you, knowing that the Amazon Prime Day sale is on this weekend and also the Insta360 sale as well, watch out for my Go 3S video. I might put it out a day early, so it arrives in the middle of the weekend, so that if you do kind of like want to make a purchase decision as a result of that, or a return decision, then you'll have that available to watch. So yeah, there's a few people in here now. Let me know where you are, what you're doing. It's a midweek here. Is it the holidays in the USA? I've got a couple of friends who say pretty much from 4th of July, Independence Day, to like mid-August. Loads of people in the US are kind of like out and about doing stuff, not necessarily watching YouTube. So yeah, I'm just curious, if you are in the US, hit me up, let me know, tell me what you think is going on at the moment. So yeah, let's have a look here. We will just put this banner up here. Just so people know where we are and what we're doing. Alright, so Japan. Let me tell you about my history with Japan. Okay, so I've been fascinated with Japan ever since I was a kid. But my first time I actually went to Japan was actually pretty straight into my adulthood. It was in 2006, and I did a stopover. I moved to New Zealand in 2005, and I wanted to go to Japan, so I took the opportunity to do a stopover, a couple of days in Tokyo, going from New Zealand to Tokyo and then over to the UK. I think I was flying with Lufthansa at the time. I remember it was just it was one of those old planes where it had like the one main screen in the cabin. I remember it was a really old Lufthansa 747. I was quite shocked that they were still in service. Not the 747s, but this kind of main screen in the cabin. So I'd never seen anything like it since I was about, I don't know, 11 years old. So it was crazy. Is the music supposed to be playing? No, it's not still supposed to be playing. It shouldn't be playing. I can't hear it. Let me know. Yeah, let me know if the music is still playing. It shouldn't still be playing. It should just be me on audio now. There's no other music going on. Let me know, genuine. The music is still on. This is no good. It should all be off. I can't see any other music going here. I'll just turn that on. Should be nothing playing, right? Let me know if you can still hear it. Let's have a look here. Any more comments? There was a comment here, is there? No, I think that's it. Okay, and hi Vanessa, nice to see you here again. Sorry, didn't acknowledge you being here. And genuine article too, thank you for the feedback. So yeah, 2006, I was kind of like in Tokyo, and it was really interesting. I felt like you had it off for a second. Oh, that's really weird. Music on, and there should be music off now. I would turn the volume right down there for the music, so if it is playing in the background and I can't see that it's doing it, that should take it off, but you should still be able to hear me, right? Right? Just let me know if you can still hear me. Still playing? This is weird. Well, I've taken the volume right down. Vanessa, can you still hear it now? It's very, very strange. Alright. Well, hopefully that sorted it out now. Because I can't hear anything on my end. Could put this up here to see what's going here. Channel. Let's have a quick look. Here. Yeah, it's still playing. This is really weird. I think delete all the music. All I can do. Okay. No, still playing. It's off now. Oh my God. Yes, thank God. How weird is that? That's so strange. And it scared everyone off. Thank you for sticking around with Vanessa. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Finally. All right, I can turn this off now. Yeah, okay, so let's go back to Japan. So yeah, I was traveling around in Japan in 2006 just for a couple of days, and to be honest, I felt like a ghost. I didn't really know Japan. Kind of was like stitching it up. Yeah, peace and quiet. Yeah, peace and quiet. Just me and you. Oh, a few more people have come in. Hi, everyone. Sorry about the music in the background. Drop me a note. Let me know who you are, where you're joining us from, and welcome, welcome. So yeah, first time I went to Japan, 2006, walking around like a ghost, didn't know what I was doing. Nobody was making eye contact with me. I kind of knew that that was going to happen, but it was kind of like really disconcerting. And sometimes I would kind of like play it up a little bit. I'd look down and look up real quickly and find loads of people looking at me, and then kind of like look away real quick as well. So yeah, the whole eye contact thing was really interesting too. But this is like back in 2006, and I was still like a real newbie when I was in Japan at that time. And so I was still really curious. So I had the opportunity. This came up answering a small ad in a newspaper, a local newspaper, and I managed to get selected for this thing called the Young Core Leaders of Civil Society, where I went as part of a New Zealand government contingent thinking about youth mental health. And we met in Japan with a Japan kind of like contingent and a contingent from Denmark and a contingent from Belgium as well. And it was a program based in Tokyo, and I ended up going to Osaka as well, and ended up being there for about 10 days. And it was fantastic, really, really good. And it was a really good way to get to know Japanese people. I'm still in contact with a couple of people who I met on that program now, a couple of Japanese people and also people from Belgium as well. So that was really, really cool to do that. And that for me was like the first real kind of like connection I had with Japan. And then I applied a couple of years later and I had a fellowship, and I was based in Tokyo at the National Institutes for Mental Health. And I was there for just over a month working and collaborating with colleagues there. Ended up going to like baseball games, all kinds of like really, really interesting stuff in my off time when I wasn't working, as well as traveling and doing a whole bunch of stuff like conferences. And then I went up to Hokkaido, which is like the northernmost island, and basing myself in this kind of like just this little ryokan, which is like a guest house in the middle of this kind of like snowy drift right by a lake and a mountain. It was fantastic. Such a great experience. Yeah, it was just wonderful. And at that time, I think I had, what did I have with me? I think I had like an iPhone 3GS or something like that. I've still got like, and a Casio Exelim V8, I think it was called. It was like had a telescopic lens inside it, and I still got that footage. And I have actually put out a video like of like I'm going back to Japan back in I think mid 2023. I put one out with like all my old footage. It's just a short video. You might be able to find it on my channel. But yeah, it was just really, really cool. And then I had a massive gap between 2009 and 2023. Now I did almost go back to Japan in 2010. I actually got a place on the JET program, which is the Japanese English teacher program, and I was going to be based in a school, but I ended up taking a different life path. Long story. I kind of regret not going, but then my life would have been very, very different, and who knows, may not have ended up with the family and kids that I have now. Could have had a very, very different path. So, yeah, it's interesting, but I kind of like wanted to connect the dots again. I wanted to rejoin the broken path that I had in kind of like my relationship with Japan, which is why I went back in 2023. I kind of had an itch that I was trying to scratch. I wanted to go back before the blip, but then once the blip kind of like calmed down, I was like, nah, I need to go back. There's stuff I need to do here. So yeah, that's kind of like how I ended back up in Japan in 2023. And I loved it so much. I went back again kind of 6 months later in 2024. And I believe me, if I had the chance, I would go again this year. I would go again. I wouldn't go in August again, July and August again. July is quite rainy. August is like super duper hot. And so is like September. I probably wouldn't do that again. I only went in August last year because it was the only window I had to go. And again, today, it's probably the only window I have to go before the end of the year. But I'm not going to do that experience again. I want to experience a different season. And last year I went in kind of like mid-February. This time I'm going kind of like right at the end of February, more in March. early March. So yeah, I might even see a little bit of cherry blossom, but probably a little bit early for that. Vanessa, I hope to travel to Japan one day. Oh, you have to. You have to. I have a feeling you would love it. And you sold your old Go 3 and you bought the new Go 3S and you love the 4K. I love the 4K as well. I think it's really, really good. Interesting that you've done that. I guess you're not a free frame shooter. If I was a free frame shooter, I'm not sure I would recommend the upgrade, because I just think that you have to double think yourself a lot and figure out, okay, so what's the crop going to be like? And is this really what I want to get? And what's the orientation of my camera? And I think for the Go 3, the beauty of that kind of people are now starting to realize is that it was a no-brainer. You just kind of like stick it on free frame. You don't have to kind of like muck around with it. In fact, don't muck around with it. Just keep it in the same orientation, and it just works for post-production. With the Go 3S, if you're not shooting in straight video, I think you have a lot more choices and a lot more thinking that you need to do. And so if I was a free frame shooter, if you're a free frame shooter, I would not recommend. I would say think very carefully about how you're going to shoot with the Go 3S, and whether you're wanting to have to do all that thinking, or whether just 2.7K in free frame is going to do it for you because of the convenience of just not having to think about it. Anyway, I love the Go 3S. What have you been shooting, Vanessa, with the 4K? I'm curious about why you love it, what you've noticed about the 4K. Let me know. So yeah, back to Japan. I am now planning. So let's go back to 2023. What I did then was I did a 7-day JR pass. So that's a Japan Rail pass, which I bought, and that gives you kind of like a ticket to go anywhere in Japan. And so I did like a really packed itinerary of 7 days moving around. I just had one day that I lost, and that's because Typhoon Lan, I think it was the 6th typhoon of the typhoon season, came through. And I think it was on August the 14th. I'm just making this video today. So I've got all the data in my head. There was 100,000 houses were out of power, and something like 240,000 people had been forced to evacuate from their homes. And as I left Kanazawa on the Thunderbird Express train to go to Kyoto, it was about to hit that area. So when I arrived in Kyoto, and I was just thankful that the trains were still running, because a lot of the Shinkansen, the bullet trains, had stopped running at that point. This train was still running, and I got into Kyoto and the weather was really starting to pick up. And so I hunkered down for that night, but I lost pretty much the rest of that day, just kind of like keeping myself safe, following local guidelines and emergency management guidelines. And then the next day got up and then quickly did the bamboo forest at Arashiyama, and then to Fushimi Inari, which is like the big Torii gates. And I had a challenge to try and do both those things in one morning, which I pulled off. You'll see a video all about that before the end of the week. But the result was that I had a really, really packed time for those 7 days. Went all the way from Tokyo right down to Hiroshima, Miyajima Island, and back again to Tokyo in that evening, on that final evening, to get back in time to fully use my 7-day pass. And it was great, but I didn't want to have that kind of a packed itinerary again the next time I went. So I had a completely opposite approach when I went in February this year. And that was, I just based myself in Tokyo, and I did kind of like day trips in and out of Tokyo. Didn't have a night away from Tokyo that whole time. And that was fantastic too. You know, Tokyo is the biggest metropolis in the world. It's not like you're going to run out of things to do. And I've still got like a massive list of things that I want to do and day trips that I can take out of Tokyo. So the next time I went, which is in February, I also didn't want to overschedule myself. So I was really careful about how much I took on in each day, gave myself a lot more room. And, you know, the reason why I'm putting out videos about my August trip last year is that I kind of like collected all this footage and kind of didn't really edit it, didn't really know what to do. And I didn't want that to happen again. So I just kind of filmed and edited whilst I was going, and I managed to get it all out all uploaded before I left Japan. So this time I'm going to do a kind of like a hybrid approach. I'm going to base myself in Tokyo, and I'm going to have 2 nights away, and I'm going to get a 3-day Tokyo region JR pass, which means that I can still get on bullet trains, which I kind of missed last time, still go out and spend nights away from Tokyo and have an interesting, really packed schedule for 3 days, and then come back and then get back into my kind of like living in Tokyo kind of like vibe. So I'm really, really looking forward to that for my next trip. And I will be, who knows what cameras I'll have by then. When I was in Japan in August, I used the Insta360 Flow like the whole time with my iPhones, and it was great. When I was there this February, I was using mainly the Go 3 and the Ace Pro. And what I learned was using the Ace Pro with the external mic was kind of okay and cool, but I preferred using the cameras just kind of like naked. And the sound was kind of good enough. But what I also noticed was that the Ace Pro does have a little bit of a soft focus issue, I think, when I was vlogging. It's fine for kind of like mid-distance or things that are more than about a meter away, but anything less than a meter away, I found I had a little bit of a soft focus problem. So the Go 3 became my favorite camera when I was there. I had my X4 with me, but at that point I didn't have my Rode wireless mic, so Wireless Pro. So I was kind of like a little bit about the sound on the X3, so not the X4, the X3 at that time. But this time on the trip, depending upon kind of what technology is out, if I was going today, I would be taking, and I'm hoping to get, the Flow Pro, because I have an iPhone and it's kind of like unlocks a whole load of interesting stuff for the iPhone and the Apple system. I haven't got one yet, but when I do have one, I will kind of like review it. I would take both my Go 3S and my Go 3. I would probably take 2 action pods as well, just because of the extra battery life that gives me and the extra flexibility. And I think I would probably take the X4 as well, because I really, really like doing the one-take videos. And I think that they work really well in 8K, and I think they look great. So yeah, that's what I would be taking with me if I was going to go to Japan today with the kit that I have. And I think that the thing about the Go 3S and the Go 3 is that they're just so easy and so flexible to use, and the sound is good enough. I think if you watch my kind of like Tokyo vlogs, a few people kind of like a bit like, I wish I could get like an external mic to it. And a few people have been like, hey, look, I'm actually surprised how good this is. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting little device, really interesting little fun device. I love it. I really, really do. So yeah, that's my kind of like main story about Japan. If I was taking gear, what would I recommend? I would definitely think about most rooms that you'll find in Japan that you're going to be staying in are going to be small, really small. So think carefully about taking like massive suitcases with you. I personally have converted to taking a wheeled duffel bag, which I love. It's really, really good. I've got a video about it. And it's interesting. It's like, lots of people kind of like have been watching this video. I think it's like the #1 video now on wheeled duffel bags versus suitcases on YouTube. It's crazy. But yeah, I'm a convert now to wheeled duffel bags. But I would also say, think about storage of your bags when you're trying to do things, or if you're trying to move between hotels, or if you are kind of like on the road and doing stuff and you arrive early and your hotel's a little bit far away from the station. One of the great things in Japan is that they have so many lockers available and left luggage services close to the station or in the station. And I would take full advantage of those. On that day that I lost when I was in Kyoto, I took my bag, checked out of my hotel, went to the station, and used the station as my hub for that morning. So I checked my suitcase on that trip into a large locker, which I think cost 500 yen, which I think at the moment is like $5 US, and that's like for 24 hours. So I popped it in there, and then I only had my day bag that I had to take with me to go to the Bamboo Grove, and then also go to the Torii gates as well. Came back into Kyoto, went back out again, and then came back into Tokyo, grab my suitcase, grab some food from the convenience store, and then go on my next train to Nara, which is like my next trip. And I think that if you plan wisely, and you know about the system that Japan has for people to kind of like just check in their bags so that they're free of kind of like all kinds of, all the stuff that you see in other places of people just kind of like wheeling their massive suitcases around with them because they can't get into the hotel yet, but they still want to go and do stuff. And left luggage isn't really an option. It is in Japan, and it's fantastic. So yeah, fully use that, I would say. Think about small rooms. Think about how you're going to manage that with all your gear, particularly if there's a couple of you or a family of you traveling together. Think about how much room you actually need in your room, because you won't get much. Excuse me a sec. And then also think about, in terms of your gadgets and being able to charge them up overnight. What I have found is that sometimes in those rooms, you don't get a lot of electricity outlets, which kind of like is a little bit surprising, right? You think that, a big connected country like Japan, you would have lots of electricity sockets, but not necessarily. What you find is often there's like a plug, and then you'll have like a four-way adapter that comes out of that. So first thing is that they take the straight plugs like they do in the US. So just the two-prong straight plug is what they use in Japan. But they also use 110 volts, not 220, 240. So think about that with any kind of equipment that you have, and how long it's going to take to charge. If you're used to kind of like a 220, 240 volt kind of like charging time, a 110 volt charging time is going to take significantly longer for you to get your batteries or your devices back up to speed again. So plan for that. That's something that I learned, is that actually it takes a bit longer for you to do that. So make sure if you're taking kind of like, battery packs with you, a 10,000 milliamp hour battery or a MagSafe battery for your phone or for your other devices, make sure you've got a couple of those. Maybe have one charging in the hotel room whilst you're out and about for the day, so you're never kind of out of power and you're not waiting for that battery pack to charge back up again. You can have them both charging up again overnight. So I had two batteries with me, and I have one charging up in the hotel room. If I went back to the hotel room, so like late afternoon, get myself together to go out for dinner or to do whatever it is that I was going to do, swap my battery packs over, and then have that battery charging up in the evening, and then have the battery that I took out. You see what I mean? You just cycle all the batteries and make sure you've got enough and allow enough time for you to get your batteries charged up. What else was I going to say? Yeah, here's a good one. When I was in Japan, and you may find this as well, if you have been to Japan, let me know. And if you are here, let me know what's going on. Vanessa, let's just check in with you for a second. You use it for running, awesome. Or at the grocery store, you wanted the interval, tilt fix, and 4K. Don't really use the free frame. The footage looks really good. Yeah, I never use the free frame these days. I was a fan of it to start off with, but nowadays I value speed. So I don't really want to be spending a load of time kind of like going into the app and then processing that. Missing out that step means a lot to me. And so I would rather just film in straight video 4K, and I have my whole psychology set up for that now. So yeah, I don't even think twice about it. Hey, how you doing, Angel? It's lovely to see you again. Lovely to see you. So yeah, it's not something that I do, shooting in free frame anymore. I do actually prefer shooting in straight. And it's great to be able to just kind of have myself set up for that kind of like workflow. So yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah, the other thing was, if you go to Japan, or if you've been to Japan, be prepared to take really good shoes with you. I mean, yeah, you can take dressy shoes like for the evenings, or if you're going out places or doing things, or sandals for kind of like, walking around at the beach or whatever it is that you might be doing. Beaches, have I been to a beach? Yeah, I have been to a beach in Enoshima in Japan. It was lovely. It's really nice. It's a big surfing beach. But what I was going to say was I was doing 20,000 steps a day regularly, and a lot of those are stairs. What you'll find is that you're doing a lot of stairs when you're in Japan. It is a deceptively hilly place, even in the cities. You'll find yourself going up a bunch of stairs to go up to a shrine or to a viewpoint, and then you're going to have to come back down again. So 20,000 steps, and I would say 20,000 hard steps you're doing in a day. Even in relatively flat cities, you're still doing a lot of work with your legs. And that's even with a massively good, incredibly good, best ever in the world public transport system as well, with the trains, within cities, the subways, the Shinkansen between cities, also the bus network. Don't be afraid to use the buses actually in Japan. Google Maps is incredibly good at giving you instructions. And there are other ways of kind of getting instructions as to kind of how to use the public transport system, literally getting from point A to point B. Don't be afraid of using those. Once you've kind of done it a couple of times, you kind of get it. And use kind of the prepayment card, the Pasmo card, the Suica card, or whatever electronic card in whatever city that you end up in. They're usable all over Japan. They're kind of like they have a standard that they all share, and you can use them all over the place. They're really, really good for public transport. You can get electronic versions as well for your phone. Personally, I prefer to kind of reserve my battery power on my phone. So I prefer the physical card as an electronic payment card. It's also just kind of cool. I like having it. I don't necessarily want to have everything on my phone. I want to just kind of make sure I don't spend all of that battery all at once. So yeah, use the public transport system. But even then, I was still doing regularly 20,000 plus steps. And on a quiet day, it was still kind of like 14, 15,000 steps. And that was not even really trying to do anything. So yeah, take really, really good shoes that you've worn in before you go, right? Don't take you've got these great shoes and you're going to wear them when you're in Japan. Make sure you've worn them in thoroughly before you get to Japan, because you're gonna get sore feet otherwise. But I'll talk to you about one other thing there. A bit more water. Pharmacies in Japan are great. I don't know about you, but one of the things I like doing is whenever I'm traveling anywhere, also particularly in Asia, I don't know what it is about Asian drugstores, Asian kind of pharmacies. They have stuff in there which you just don't find in other places in the world. They're just fantastic. So I can spend a good hour in Asian pharmacies just kind of looking around at stuff, and they have really good foot care products in those pharmacies in Japan. So yeah, if you do get sore feet, hot feet, tired feet, pop into there, go in with Google Translate, take some photos, and it'll tell you what that product is meant to do. That is actually quite good fun. Looking around in pharmacies and stuff like that, it's really fun. Angel, I got the Go 3S, yay! And used the free frame mode on your holiday in France, and it worked fine. Fantastic! That's really, really good. I think if you're kind of open to it, I think free frame is fine on the 3S. I think the problem is if that you're used to the Go 3 and you really want it to be just like the Go 3, then it's going to be quite hard for you to be kind of constantly mentally processing. But if you're open to it being a little bit different, then I think free frame is going to be great for people. Yes, good shoes in Japan. Essential. You really hated stairs when you got back from Japan. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, you could be oh God, more stairs. Yeah, I think you do get a really, really good workout. So yeah, make sure that your legs are up to it. I would almost recommend, if you're not used to doing a lot of walking and a fair amount of staircase climbing, do a little bit of training before you go to Japan, because I think otherwise it could be quite a shock. You don't want to be so sore that the next day that you really kind of don't want to do things because stairs are involved, because you could miss out on a lot in Japan if you don't want to do stairs. And I think that kind of makes you think in terms of mobility issues as well. There are things that you can do, in Enoshima, when you go to the island bit that goes up, there is actually a fleet of escalators that will take you up if walking is a bit of an issue. You have to pay a little bit. It's not too much. but you still have to come down by yourself. The escalator is only one way getting you up there. And so you're still going to be working out your legs coming down too. So there are options in some places in Japan where they are thinking about mobility issues, particularly because in Japan, they're geared up for domestic tourism as well. And there's an aging population in Japan, as you probably know, and so yeah, it's mobility is an issue, but yeah, prepare yourself before you go is what I would say, to be doing a fair amount of stair climbing. The one problem I had in Japan was to understand where exactly the restaurants were, because sometimes they were inside a building on some floor. That's true though, right? It's like sometimes you'll see outside, you'll see like a bunch of signs telling you where and what a place is. And then you go in, and first you've got to find the staircase or the lift. If it's like kind of like an older building, maybe there's like a really like small lift that you can use. Most of the time there's like a staircase. And then you've got to kind of like go up and decipher like which is the restaurant that you want and where the heck is it? Because exactly as you say, it's not particularly well signposted. So yeah, I mean, the way I kind of like looked at it was like it was a bit of an adventure, and I think that that's how you have to treat it when you're in Japan, because everything's kind of different. There's a lot of kind of like hole in the wall, kind of like secret places that you kind of like stumble across as well. So I wouldn't necessarily be too fixed upon going to a particular place, because often you can have really good experiences in places that you just stumble across in Japan. And like if you treat it like a bit of an adventure, and you say, yeah, I kind of fancy ramen. I'm not that kind of fussed about where or what kind of ramen I'm going to go to. I'm going to look on Google Maps and see what's in my area right now. And you look at the ratings, then you're probably not going to go too far wrong. And the reason why, I'll tell you, is that I discovered is that the ratings system is really well used in Japan, I think. If you think about in New Zealand, right? You do that in New Zealand, you might come across, like 40 ratings or 40 reviews for an establishment that's been there for quite a long time. Okay, the equivalent in Japan is like it will have thousands and thousands of ratings or review if that place has been there for a decent amount of time. And yeah, so you can have a fairly solid idea as to whether that place is going to be wrong or right for you, because there's going to be a lot of ratings and a lot of people will have been there and have left ratings too. So yeah, ratings are a big thing in Japan, and I've found them quite reliable in terms of figuring out what the standard of food and what kind of food, if you read through the ratings. Yeah, I kind of like that about that. The patches, yeah, talking about pharmacies and what you can get in Japan to help you if you've got kind of like sore feet or any other kind of like problems. The patches to put on your feet are amazing, and all the products in drugstores in Japan are really awesome. I still have friends that live in Japan sending me products. Yeah, it's really cool, right? Like all the stuff that you can get in Japan in those pharmacies, just yeah, I mean, you can go from pharmacy to pharmacy and compare and see what they've got. I think they're fascinating places. But then I feel the same about all these different places in like Singapore. I've been to Thailand, Vietnam. Like actually, no, Vietnam was a bit different. Vietnam's like it's kind of pharmaceutical products, and they're all kind of like behind like the counter. But anyway, yeah, really fascinating and really great in Japan for like aiding you with like sore feet, but also kind of like all the electrolyte drinks you can get, kind of like onigiri, little rice balls. They have like a food counter in there as well, or a food fridge. Yeah, just tons and tons of really interesting stuff. If you watch NHK Japan, which is like a free channel that the national broadcaster do, they have this thing called 72 hours, where like a camera crew goes and hangs out in a place. And they put one out recently, which is like 72 hours in a pharmacy in Shinjuku, which is like the busiest area in Tokyo. And it was 72 hours, not the whole 72 hours, but highlights and interviews with people who are using this pharmacy. So there were foreigners there and there were Japanese there as well. So it's just really fascinating little window on people's lives. That show is actually really good for you to get kind of like an idea of what Japanese life is like. They had one which is like on a 24-hour diner in Hokkaido, and it was really snowy. No, it was 24 hours, sorry, convenience store in Hokkaido. really, really snowy in the middle of winter, and all the community and how they used that. And then they had another, which is like a 24-hour diner where a load of truckers were using it. And it's a surprising number of women truckers using it too. And their story is like, how did they end up trucking? So yeah, if you want to get like an insight into Japan, either because you've been and you can't get enough of it, or you're thinking about going, firstly, NHK Japan is a really good thing. They have a free app, so you can watch it through there if it's not available, if you don't have a smart TV. So yeah, watch it through the app. And look through their video on demand and look at those 72 hours documentaries. They're really fun. They're really cool. Yeah, it's a really, really fascinating place. Really fascinating place. I can't get enough of it, really. Let's see what's going on here. We've got a few people in here, but I'm probably going to start winding. Oh, it's 9 o'clock already. Crikey, I didn't know that. All right, so yeah, we've been on for about 45 minutes. I'm just going to pop this down here at the bottom. I'm probably going to start winding this up now because I've actually got that video to make around my challenge of trying to get through these two things just outside of Kyoto as the typhoon kind of leaves the area before I move on to Nara. If there are any other questions or anything that people want to say, it's lovely to see you here. It's a little bit quiet here today, but I think, like I say, I think it's like the holidays in the US, and there aren't that many people kind of like doing YouTube and stuff like that at the moment. But yeah, I will probably start winding it up here then. Thank you for joining me today. It's been lovely to see you, and I'm going to make myself another coffee and then crack on with my day. Hope you have a good one. See you now.